Well, this setup is definitely not Christmassy enough for Vlogmas. We gotta do something about that. That's better, but there's still something missing, right? And I don't mean the fuzzy baby. That's more like it. Hello lovelies, I'm Christina, and today we are starting off Vlogmas 2020 with my October and November wrap-up. So I have a little bit of a fuzzy daughter laying in a crib beside me, so if you hear some weird noises, that's her. So let's jump into the books. The first book that I read in the month of October was The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. This is a middle grade fantasy novel. It is about a town where the protectorate, they leave or sacrifice a baby to a witch every year. So there's this belief that if they sacrifice this baby, the witch won't come and haunt the town. So every year they choose a baby, they leave it in the forest, and they just leave. They don't stay there to see the witch come get it. And the witch is actually not a bad witch. She comes there every year and is surprised to see why this town sacrifices a baby every year. So she rescues the baby and finds a new home for them in another town on the other side of the forest. She also feeds them a little bit of starlight before she hands them over. And then one year she finds a little girl and accidentally she feeds her moonlight instead of starlight. And that ends up taking in this girl and tries to teach her how she's gonna use her powers. So this little girl, she calls her Luna, of course, because she fed her moonlight. She's starting to find out about her power, and then a little bit of complication and drama unfolds. This was really sweet. I really enjoyed it. It was a fast-paced story that I really flew through, as I usually do with middle grade novels, but I really like the atmospheric writing in this. It's very magical and mystical, and I just really enjoyed it. It was a fun ride, and I would highly recommend it if you like middle grade fantasy novels. I ended up giving this 5 out of 5. The next book I read in the month of October was I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Iain Reid. This is a horror thriller novel about a girl that's going to visit her new boyfriend's family for the first time. The family is weird, let's say that. A lot of weird things happen during their visit to this family. And I'm not going to say much more because I don't want to spoil it. Oh, baby. Why are you missing a sock? I'm just going to rock her a bit. That's just the way it is now. So I'm Thinking of Ending Things. It's a short book, but it's packed with creepiness and weirdness. And I know a lot of people aren't a fan of the ending of this one, but I really appreciated it and really liked it. I have not watched the Netflix movie adaptation yet, but I'm going to soon. I'm thinking we're going to make a date night out of it sometime during December if we have time. Because I'm really, really excited to see how this turns into a movie and if I like it as much. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5. Now next up we have a romance, and that is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. It is the story about Lucy and Joshua. Lucy comes from a small publishing house, Joshua from a bigger corporate publishing house. They merge and they have to share an office and they don't like each other. They have this game of just trying to destroy each other's day. And there's definitely some flirting going on underneath that, and you can sort of guess that it's gonna go from a hate to romance, or more hate to sexual attraction. It is very sweet, quite funny, and very steamy as well, which surprised me. I didn't know it was gonna be that steamy, and I really appreciated it. I did not love this, but I still really, really enjoyed it and flew through it. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5. Next up we have an audiobook that is Disloyal, the true story of the former personal attorney to President Donald J. Trump by Michael Cohen. So it is Michael Cohen just telling his story from he was a young boy, how he ended up as the personal attorney to Donald Trump, and everything shady that they did together, and also the shady things he did before that. He's very honest about everything that he did, very honest about his opinions, and how he was kind of transfixed by this idea of power and being the attorney to the president. I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was disturbing. It brought a lot of new information to the table. I can definitely see how Donald Trump wanted to stop this book from being published. It does not paint a pretty picture of either of them. So I thought it was informative. I thought it was very interesting, and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5. Next up, we have a book that I read for Reedsy. I am a Reedsy reviewer. I have mentioned this before. I do get to pick free books in exchange of an honest review. This time, the author actually reached out to me on Reedsy and asked me if I wanted to review her novel, and I read through the synopsis and thought it sounded really interesting. It is A Forever Story by Cathleen, Lynn, Boyle. It is based on a true story. So it's about a young girl who lives in San Francisco and is trying to build up her career as a hip-hop or music journalist. And then one day she goes to a party and someone spikes her drink and she dies, and her best friend ends up in a coma. It switches from the perspective of her and her life in San Francisco to her mom's perspective and a couple of other people as well, and how they deal with losing her, and then 15 years later trying to get justice and find out about the truth of what actually happened. It is very heartbreaking. It is, it makes more of an impact knowing that this is based on a true story of this young girl who got GHB put in her drink and ended up losing her life because of it. And I genuinely thought it was hard to read. At times this book, it kind of read more like a TV show or a movie because there was so much dialogue going back and forth while they were in the courtroom, and there's a lot of time in the courtroom with this story. I can see why the author did it. But that isn't my favorite kind of writing style, because I like to get more of the atmosphere around it and not just lots and lots of dialogue. But even so, I did really enjoy it, even though it was hard to read. I did not see that ending coming, so yeah, very surprised about that ending. That was not how I pictured it all going down at the end. If you are interested in learning more about this book and read my full review of it, I will link my Reedsy review in the thingamajiggy down below. I will also link to all of the other books that I mentioned down below as well. So I ended up giving A Forever Story a 3 out of 5. Now, the last book that I read, which I read in November, was Lovecraft Country by Ruff. This is set in the 50s, 1954, Chicago, where Atticus goes on this journey to try to find his father, who is missing. He's been gone for a few days, and there's a cryptic letter left behind, if I remember correctly. My brain is not as sharp these days as it usually is. So if I say anything wrong, if I mention any wrong details in any of these books, I'm sorry. It's all because of pregnancy fog. No, not pregnant anymore. It's because of the baby fog. So, it's the story about Atticus. He goes on this journey using the Safe Negro Travel Guide that his uncle publishes. So him and his uncle and a woman named Letitia, they go on this journey to find his father. When they find out what happened to Atticus's father, that sets them off on a whole new journey that not only has them facing the horrors of the racism in the 50s, but also monsters that could have been right out of the comic books and horror stories that Atticus likes to read. I really enjoyed this. I extra appreciate the fact that Ruff chose to write a story like this, where it focuses so much on these awesome characters that just fights racism in a time where it's really hard to be a Black person trying to survive and trying to live their life, and doing it in a story that's inspired by Lovecraft, which most of us know that Lovecraft was a racist. So kind of making something that's not great into something that's really great. This was creepy. It had some scenes in it that just made me shiver. It was horror-tastic, is what I'm going to say. I've used that word before, and I'm going to use it for this one as well. It's horror-tastic. I really enjoyed this. It's fast-paced. It's a lot of action. You also get to meet quite a few different characters, and there's a lot of different stories going on here. About 3/4 through, I had no idea how this was going to wrap up, and I thought to myself, this has to be the start of a series, because there's just so much going on. How are we going to have an ending to this? And I think that's the main reason that this ended up being a 4 out of 5 instead of a 5 out of 5 for me, because I feel like there was just so much more to explore in this story and in this world. We had all these interesting characters and all of their own stories and all of these events that happened that I felt like we could have gotten to know so much more about. And then all of a sudden we just got everything wrapped up and ended and put a nice bow on it, and there, shipped it off. So I really did enjoy this. I thought it was super fun, super creepy at times, and Ruff's writing is really great. I really enjoyed that. But I feel like there was so much more to explore in this, and there could have been so much more to the story. So I ended up giving that a 4 out of 5. So there you have it. Those are the books that I read in the months of October and November. Let me know in the comments down below what you've been reading lately, and if you're excited about Christmas. It's December. I can't even... I don't know where the last month has gone. We're stuck in the baby fog or the baby bubble, and time is weird here. Suddenly December was here. But I'm excited about Vlogmas. It's going to be a bit different this year than last year. It's going to be a good combination of book-related movies and vlogs, and some are going to be shorter and some are going to be longer, because I don't know from day to day what kind of mood our baby Noelle is in. So it differs from day to day. So we're just gonna have to wing it some of the days, and other things we have planned out. Let me know as well in the comments if you're doing Vlogmas this year, and put a link to your channel so I can go check it out. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and hit that subscribe button and that bell button if you haven't already. And I will see you again tomorrow. Goodbye!